Hi everyone, it's Steve Barrett here from PRWeek, ready with our weekly podcast. Brilliant guest this week. We've got Barby Siegel here from our Agency of the Year, Zeno Group. Barbie, welcome to the podcast. Looking forward to chatting to you. And Barbie has brought us some emoji Hershey bars, new products. So we're very excited about that. And of course, we're wearing our Fearless bracelets, aren't we? Except Frank, because he's misery. He's just put his on the stool there. So yeah. We're all, how are you doing, Frank, by the way?
I'm doing well, thank you.
You good?
Much better since the Hershey's show.
Yes, absolutely. So we're looking forward to that. I'm going to put those down now. Slightly lost on our podcast audience, and we're going to record soon. If you've got any comments, please append them. Be nice. Questions or whatever, but otherwise we'll start recording very shortly. Hello and welcome to the PRWeek, PRWeek's regular weekly roundup of everything that matters in the worlds of PR and communications. My name's Steve Barrett. Going to guide you gently through the next 25-30 minutes as we have a very special show this week. We've got Barby Siegel, who's CEO of PRWeek's Agency of the Year for 2019. Barbie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a long time to get you on the show, and I'm really pleased that we got you, especially at this time as well. So we can talk about that and the history of the firm and what your plans are for taking it to the next level. And we've got Frank Washkuch here, news director and regular correspondent. How are you doing, Frank?
I'm doing well, thanks for having me on.
This time last week you were just about to go on the JP Morgan run
Yes.
in Central Park.
Yes, and then heartbreakingly it was cancelled.
It was.
Due to thunderstorms.
Every year it seems there's the storms at the
There's
time.
a mishap in one way.
Yeah, they cancelled them last year, I think, didn't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll talk to Frank about our Hall of Femme, great event. We had that yesterday. Barbie was there, and Barbie's obviously one of the former honorees there too, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about which accounts agencies work for and how they choose what they do. That's on the back of an analysis Thomas Moore did for us on e-cigarettes. We'll talk about IHOP and social media marketing, and we'll look forward to Frank's favourite topic, Cannes. He loves talking about that.
I do.
It's coming up in a couple of weeks, well, less than a couple of weeks.
Can't wait. I love doing work for Cannes.
You do?
From not being
From
in
New
Cannes.
York.
From New York.
Seeing pictures of everyone on the Croisette. You'll be there, won't you, Barbie?
Yes, I will.
Yes.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with our Agency of the Year, who actually, interestingly, you celebrated, well, Zeno celebrated its 20th year last year, just like PRWeek did. So you've kind of grown up with us in the industry.
That's right.
And you've done 9 years of double-digit growth, which is pretty extraordinary. So how do you do it? How have you achieved this great success? You're up to nearly $74 million in revenue. So that makes you a mid-sized firm, good, strong mid-sized firm. But tell us what the secret sauce is.
Well, I can't give you all of our secrets.
Come on.
But it's been hard to believe that in November I will have been at Zeno for 10 years.
Yeah.
And
You joined from Ogilvy. Is that right?
yes, I had very, very early in my career, I was at Edelman.
Yeah.
Then I went to Ogilvy to lead the global consumer marketing practice. I was there for 8 years. And then I arrived at Zeno, and we had 55 people in the entire agency.
Wow.
And I didn't quite know what to expect when I walked in, and to reflect back on all the years and to be where we are today is
So you got
extraordinary and gratifying.
You're almost up to 500 now. So
We're over 500 globally.
Yeah, so you've
Yep,
kind
and
of grown that tenfold.
yeah. And look, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to the people and our culture and everybody coming to work every day wanting to win. And we started out really as a challenger brand. I mean, when I joined, I don't think the world needed another PR agency. So we really had to go out there and try something different and say that we're going to disrupt the market with a different point of view, with our fearless pursuit of the unexpected. And now I think we've carved out a very unique place in the landscape. Yes, we are mid-size, but we are global, and we proudly represent some of the world's biggest companies. So one of the things that I always say is our mid-size doesn't limit what we can do, but frees us up to do so much more.
Yeah, you won the big account Lenovo, didn't you,
Yes.
last year, which was...
It's almost 2 years now.
Is it? Yeah, it's a massive win, and that's a big global account.
Yes.
Torod Netchew is the CCO over there. But talk us through you're part of the Daniel J. Edelman Group. So how does that work in terms of being part of that group, and some people maybe unfairly say, well, Zeno just gets the work that Edelman's conflicted out of. What's your sort of response to that?
My response to that is that's not true. But
I thought it might be.
We are a sister agency to Edelman, so we are part of the Daniel J. Edelman Holdings family. But if you think about Edelman is here and Zeno is here, and we operate on a parallel path, not better or worse, but different. We are not a conflict shop. We are our own independent agency. Do we get referrals from Edelman? Yes. And we, Zeno, send referrals to Edelman. But our businesses are completely separate.
Yeah.
Where did the name Zeno come from? I've always been curious.
That's a good question. One of my CEO predecessors rebranded the firm before the year 2000. Of course, Dan Edelman had named Zeno PR21, PR for the 21st century. And when we got closer to the year 2000, the then CEO, who I believe was Jerry Epstein, rebranded the firm Zeno. And do you know what the story is behind Zeno, what Zeno means?
I have no idea.
Would you like me to tell you?
Yes, tell me.
You're supposed to ask the questions though, right?
Tell me.
And it's actually very relevant to something that came up at Femme yesterday. Somebody talked about listening. I can't remember which woman talked about listening, but Zeno of Citium was a Greek god, and his mantra was that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we should listen more than we speak. And I think that's incredibly relevant and a good reminder to all of us to be good listeners to the world around us, to our clients, to our colleagues, to everything that's happening in the media and the world around us.
It's a great lesson for journalists as well, to listen. And salespeople, actually. People have this image of sales as people fast talking, but actually, if you listen, you can provide what the client wants, can't you? I'm going to cough. Excuse me.
We won't listen to that.
Excuse me, listeners. Periodically, I do get that cough, and it's come back, I'm afraid. So yeah, I didn't know that. So that's a good question, Frank. We should let you do more of it.
Idea.
Yeah, fantastic.
No idea.
Did you first meet Richard Edelman when you worked at Edelman? Yeah. So
yes.
You kind of I guess he was involved in hiring you back from when he went and got you from Ogilvy.
When I joined Edelman many, many years ago, it was, not to date myself, but my children had not yet even been born. And Edelman at the time, I remember being there and Edelman reaching $250 million in revenue. So yes, I got to know Richard very well, and we worked on things together, and I've always adored and admired him, and we stayed in touch over the years.
Yeah.
And then one morning I got the call to have breakfast, and those of you who know Richard know what that means.
Yes, he's very good at that. He is very good at that. Yeah, it was when at the awards this year, when you won your award, Richard was honoured as PR Pro of the last 20 years, and he asked everyone who used to work at Edelman to stand up in the room. It's incredible how many people stood up, wasn't it?
Yes,
it was great.
It's a very big network of people.
Yeah, for sure. But you used to be at Ogilvy. Obviously, that's a holding company shop, and now you're a famously independent shop, and Richard says the group will always be independent. What's the big difference in that? You mentioned forwarding leads to each other, and that happens in holding companies. But what's the main operational differences that you notice?
Between Edelman and Zeno?
No, between a holding company agency and an independent.
Look, it starts with Richard, and what Richard cares about and what we all care about is doing great work for clients. And as Dan Edelman always said, the money will follow. So we're not answering to Wall Street, we're answering to our clients. I mean, I can tell you, and people think, let me just back up, that because we're privately held or family held, we don't have to make money. That is not true. We, like everybody, want to run good businesses. But as important, if not more important, are the relationships and the clients and doing good work. And we're able to make decisions quickly and easily because we don't have to go to a big board or worry about the stock. And there have been a few occasions where I've said to Richard, we won such and such piece of business. We're not going to get rich, but it's really good. And his response is, it's great business, you'll grow it, the money follows. And I think clients appreciate that. The way we've interpreted it at Zeno also is that we're not about a transactional relationship. It's not about, out of the gate, the scope of work and the money. It's about, can we do good work? Can we have an impact a new business, and can we have a partnership that's going to grow together?
And you probably couldn't do that at a holding company, say Omnicom, where they kind of insist on a 30% margin, etc. It's a lot more inflexible in some ways.
You know, we're not rewarded for ridiculously high margins. It's about investing it back into the business. I mean, just yesterday I was talking with a new senior leader at Zeno. We were talking about some investment hires that we're going to make, and he said, I would never have had this conversation at my prior agency.
Right. So we're all wearing our Fearless bracelets, apart from Frank, who's refused to put his on because he says he doesn't wear jewellery. But tell us about that mantra. You're well known for your Fearless doctrine. Talk us through it.
So fearless pursuit of the unexpected is our North Star. As we were making our way in the early years and talked about being an agency that disrupts the status quo and being a challenger brand for ourselves and our clients, this word fearless just began coming into our conversation. And it's sort of an interesting story. We were rebooting our website and thinking about how we would celebrate it internally. And at the same time, my daughter had come home from summer camp and she was wearing a Fearless bracelet. And I said, Mallory, what is that? And she said, oh, the top bunk, it dropped down to my bunk. And I said, can I have it? And I just had this idea that we would begin to wear these bracelets, or at least I would, to sort of really champion that thought. And Fearless Pursuit of the Unexpected was born out of that website redesign, and it has served us incredibly well. It really is the glue that holds us all together. And if you go into any Zeno office, you see Fearless in some shape or form. And it means that everybody understands what we are about and where we're heading.
And give us an example of that fearlessness in practice, you know, something that's happened where you thought, yeah, that's Zeno, that's what we're all about.
I think fearless in practice, particularly in our early years, was going after business up against competitors that perhaps we had no place being because nobody knew who we were, and actually winning those kinds of accounts. I think fearless is our acquisition of 3 Monkeys. Fearless is the fact that we beat a field of very formidable competitors for Lenovo.
Yeah, that was.
And fearless is about,
surprise, that win.
you know, standing up and going for it and not being afraid to take those risks, but also sharing that with our clients.
Yeah, 3 Monkeys was the agency you acquired in the UK. Talk us about the next. How do you keep this going, and what's the objective? I've heard Richard say he wants to get you to 120 million. So you've still got 50 million to go before that. What's the timescale on that one?
Well, in answer to how do we keep this going, I mean, I still feel like we're just getting going. We have so much ahead of us. We have an incredible platform and an incredible base of clients from which to grow, both organically and new business. It was 100 million that Richard said.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
But now that we're so close to 100 million, of course, we have to keep going.
Yeah, sure. Well, he's got to get to 1 billion as well, hasn't he? So,
And we're going to help him with that.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered fearless snap bracelets? You know, bring the 90s back a little with the, you know, no one knows what I'm talking about. Great. Awesome. Mickey's waving his hand.
Anyway, moving on. Yeah, finally, I mean, I did notice in the agency report this year, there's still a lot of staff turnover at agencies, isn't there? And you were at 34%. That's kind of 1 in 3, and there were quite a few firms.
Yeah.
What's that all about? Is that because the demand for talent is so high that people can walk into new jobs? What's going on there?
It is a hot issue. It is talent is what if we don't have our talent, we don't have an agency. And I think what's happening is, in some instances, we are losing people to companies, whether it's Facebook, Google. There is a draw there. I think also a lot of our people have stayed a long time, and we're in a natural cycle of people moving on. But attracting and retaining talent is a top priority and something that every agency has to work at every single day.
Do you feel like you're competing with a wider range of agencies than you used to be? You know, more the general marketing, creative, stuff like that?
When we go out to pitch, we compete more with the big agencies and increasingly with non-traditional PR firms.
But just in terms of talent.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to move on to talk about Hall of Femme, but actually Maureen Lippy did say something in her remarks yesterday. She was inducted into the
Yes.
Hall of Femme.
Maureen's a good friend of mine.
And yeah, and she was talking about giving advice to younger women in the industry to take time to enjoy life, because it's such a hard and fast industry, and you've got to work, you know, really long hours, and you're always on. And she was really advising people to step back a little bit and remember to enjoy life. I mean, how do you do that and balance that with a very fast-paced agency world?
You know, I want to answer that in two ways. In my own remarks, I made the point that I never want to come across to people as if this is easy, you can absolutely have it all. You cannot. Some things will have to, there are trade-offs. If Fearless Pursuit of the Unexpected is our North Star, the sort of cultural piece that underpins everything at Zeno is that we are a place where careers are built and lives are lived. And I want people to live their lives, whether that means you're a mom getting home for dinner, you're a single person going to volunteer or do yoga. It makes you a better person. And with technology and all of that, it is infinitely possible. I do it in my own life. I take time to visit my 94-year-old father, and I have my grown children. And I don't want people to hide that they have lives that they need to tend to. So that is, I agree with everything that Maureen said, but that is absolutely central to how we operate at Zeno. We want people to come and feel like I can have a meaningful career, but I don't have to hide the fact that I'm leaving to go to soccer, to ballet, or whatever, or to volunteer, or whatever the case may be. It's really important.
Yes, absolutely. And let's get into the Hall of Femme. We'll talk more about topics, but great to find out some interesting facts about Zeno that I didn't know. So,
oh, I'm so glad.
Yes.
Does that mean you'll have me back?
Absolutely, always. You're our agency of the year. So,
that means
Frank,
I think I have to come monthly, Frank, because I'm agency of the year.
Well, works for us.
You might have to
if that's what you want.
You might have to pay a sponsorship fee for that. But, Frank,
yes.
Talk us through the Hall of Fame. It was a great event,
Great
and I personally thought it was the best one we've done so far.
And do you know I also had my first cauliflower pizza this week?
Did you?
Yes. So and it was pretty good.
I've had one, and it tastes nice. And you should explain the reference.
Yes. So Cauliflower, of course, was founded by Gail Becker, who was our first keynote speaker at yesterday's PRWeek Hall of Femme event, and she was talking about the inspiration behind her founding the business from her father, but also her career working at Edelman, working in the industry, and yeah, really interesting topic for sure. And they've had huge success just in terms of revenue over the past year. I mean, they're up towards $100 million if they haven't passed that, and it's really impressive. You can't even say small company, really impressive company.
What did you think of that? Because you must have known Gail for a lot of years, and she made that step to become an entrepreneur from scratch. And she was talking about that story of the first shipment to Whole Foods was stuck in snow. You know, it was like delivering a child almost.
Yes.
And she's built a business to $100 million in 2 years. It's incredible.
It is an inspiring story. I mean, everything she talked about, I can relate to. I thought the story about her father was so moving.
Yeah.
I also love the story about her shoes.
Yeah.
You know, I wear high-heeled shoes every day, and the fact that now she feels really comfortable in her sneakers.
Yeah.
And I think it just goes to show that anything is possible, and she certainly embodies fearless. She had no idea if this would be successful, and now she has built what I think will going forward be an iconic company.
I do as well.
But she had a great idea at the right time too. I mean, she founded this company right at the time when I don't want to call them alternative foods, but you know what I mean, like different meatless burgers are all the rage now. You know, she had the idea at the right time.
Yeah, it's great story that, and it was really moving actually, as were a lot of the stories yesterday. Talk us through the rest of it, Frank, and some of the honorees.
So I'll give a few shout outs. First of all, shout out to our colleague Diana Bradley, who did a terrific panel.
She did.
On reintegrating back into the workplace after you have a child, and was really terrific.
Something Diana herself has done.
Yes, and some really good insights there, and I think helpful to a lot of people. So great job to her on that. And, a few of our inductees this year, Carolyn Dettman, for one, from Golan. I think the Have Her Back initiative really deserves a call out, because she's gotten not only her own firm on that, but other firms, and, even within the bigger marketing and advertising world, very good initiative.
And you can't not mention Jennifer Nettles,
No.
the country singing sensation.
Yes, and she did our afternoon keynote yesterday, and it was a very buzzy part of the day. People were very excited about it.
They were, and then our colleague Gillian Fiddlesworth did an excellent job interviewing her, I thought. It's a great rapport between them. So there's a future for that gentleman. There were some serious topics raised, as you would expect, Barbie, and some of the comments, including Caroline's comments, were, yeah, it's celebrating women in PR is crucial, but it's still a small percentage of leadership is female, and there are still issues like sexual harassment that are really haven't risen to the surface, haven't gone away. You know, there's a lot of work still to be done. What was your take on that?
Look, I thought it was an amazing event. I have been, I think, every year.
Yeah.
This might have been my third. I do want to say that I was sitting with a group of young women from Zeno, and each and every one of them loved it.
That's good to hear.
And I think, as I said to you earlier, all of the women, Caroline, Maggie, others, they all raised really important issues that we cannot hide from, and we need to be speaking about and joining together to face. And I think Carolyn Dettman has so much passion, and she very bravely brought up sexual harassment, and we're living in a time where we all have to be cognizant of it every single day.
Yeah.
And I know at Zeno, our values are incredibly important, and we want to make sure that we are providing an environment that is safe, that is inclusive, and living up to our values is non-negotiable.
If I think back to, I've been doing this about 10 years at PRWeek, and if I think of the agency leaderships back then and now, there are a lot more female leaders. You've got Diana Littman at MSL, you've got Barry Rafferty at Ketchum, Donna Imperato, yourself, Jen Prozek, many others. But there's still a dearth of women right at the top levels. And when we're putting our power list together, you know, we want to put a diverse and a representative group together, but also there are more men in leadership still, a lot more, even though the overall industry is 70% female. How do we push this over the line, if you like? So in some ways it's easy. Somebody said, how do you solve the pay equity issue? Well, just pay women the same as men, you know. But it seems difficult to actually make these steps.
You know, I think it's about showing women a path to get there and wanting to take that on and making sure, again, that there is an environment that allows for women to lead in the way that they want to. You know, I was very taken yesterday by some of the comments about, I forgot who it was, who somebody made an assumption that she has children, so she couldn't go on a business trip. And I think it was Julie who talked about these micro moments. And I think
Julie Battleline, Carmichael Lynch.
I think it's about doing all of these things to make sure that we are, in fact, helping to clear the way. One of the things that's always been important to me as a leader, but also as a woman, is that I've never wanted people in the firm to look at me and say, oh God, I don't want her job. You know, which is why I've tried to lead in a way that's real, in a way that says it's not perfect, it's not always smooth sailing at home, but to know that is okay. The woman from Smithfields I was very moved by because she talked about all the men in her professional career who supported her.
Yeah.
And I have equally had mentors and sponsors along the way, whether it was Marcia Silverman or Richard, and nobody has ever said to me, you're a woman, you can't do that. So I think we have to keep having this conversation and showing women that it is possible to, if you are a mother, be a mother and a leader, that it doesn't mean you don't have a life. I mean, it's not sacrificing everything else, and it shouldn't be. And I think that is a incredibly important message, and it is also, I will say, having the support system at home or outside in your life and people that are going to help you and champion you.
Yeah, the lady from Smithfields actually got a job in Asia, didn't she? And her husband gave up his career in high finance and became the primary caregiver to their child while she was in Asia. So
I can remember a time when I was at Ogilvy and I was getting ready to take a big trip to Asia, and my children were young, and my husband, who himself is a successful attorney, said, you go, I will deal with the house. I think everybody needs a partner like that to make them feel that they can have the headspace to do that and then return home.
Yeah. Great day, and really very inspiring, and I have a bit part in that whole thing. The team did an amazing job. Shout out to all the women.
Your shout out to the
PRWeek,
women was great.
They're the power at PRWeek, and just naming them actually sort of demonstrates that. So yeah, great job to it by everyone. Frank, let's talk about agencies and the type of accounts that they're taking. This is a regular topic on the podcast, and it came into focus again with the e-cigarette issue, where Thomas Moore did a nice analysis about it.
I thought he did a really nice job with this, and the bottom line of what we found was that the majority of the large agencies, and I think the majority of agencies overall, won't touch e-cigarettes as a client. They won't touch vaping. Of the top 5, Burson Cohen Wolf was the only one that didn't dismiss it outright. When we reached out to them, everybody from Weber to Edelman to Fleishman Hiller, and said, we don't have those kinds of clients on the roster. And I think a lot of them, one thing that we found was really interesting was that a lot of them identify it exactly the same way they would with regular cigarettes, with tobacco. And I think it's a positive step.
Yeah, well, I mean, Edelman has historically had a very strong line on this. Richard does personally. I presume you wouldn't take on an account like that.
We would not.
But how do you draw the lines between what you will take on and what you won't? Because there are grey areas, aren't there? And you could look at a reason to not take on any account, really. So how does that thought process work for you?
I mean, I think ultimately it has to align with your own core values, and it needs to be something that is going to advance the firm and fit with our strategy, and also not disrupt the mix of clients that you currently have. Just to go back to the tobacco, I mean, we represent a lot of pharmaceutical companies, and we do a lot of work in the area of oncology. So even if, of course, we never would, but that would be an example of how a new business opportunity would be at cross purposes with existing clients.
Yeah, it's a topic we'll come back to.
And the other thing I want to say, whether it's controversial or not, I think we at Zeno do a really good job just at vetting new business in general. We don't just say yes to everything. It needs to align with what we're doing, but most importantly, we need to feel that we can make a positive impact on that business and have the expertise. And to all the discussions we've had about the expanded role of PR and communications, really move their business.
And people would want to work on it as well.
Well, that's just it. And then there are those other opportunities where, it may not be the biggest financial opportunity, but it's something that the team is really, and that's equally important. That ties right back to the talent discussion we just had.
Has this ever come up in like a healthcare pitch, for instance? Like, has a prospective healthcare client ever asked you, you work with tobacco, do you, have they ever wanted to make sure that there's not a conflict there?
I don't think it's come up, but I think it's pretty well known that the Daniel J. Edelman companies don't.
Okay.
And Richard, of course, has had a platform of
Sure.
anti-smoking for such a long time.
Yeah, he pays staff as if they give up, doesn't he? He offers them $2,000 or something. But you do get vetted up by Lenovo, and other clients are starting to put diversity among their criteria for choosing an agency. So I assume you passed that test as you won the business. But to me, that seems like a way to really advance issues like diversity and gender equality. If the clients say, look, you've got to hit these targets, otherwise we're not going to hire you, that is surely one way that's really going to kick it down the road.
I'm so grateful for the way Tarad ran the Lenovo pitch, making diversity so important. But I'll never forget, and we were already, of course, down the diversity road, but I'll never forget what he said to me when he called to say we had won the business. On that very first phone call, he said, you've won the business and all the niceties, but I also want to use this as an opportunity to continue the diversity and inclusion conversation and work together on initiatives, both related to Lenovo and separately. And I welcome that. I mean, I think that is a way to really drive change. And as I said, we had been doing it anyway, but it's great to have that embedded so deeply into a client relationship and share those values.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely agree. Let's talk about IHOP, Frank. They've been doing some interesting stuff in their marketing, and we've been covering a lot of these social media stories. So what have they been up to?
Yeah, okay, so just bear with me because I'm having a little trouble wrapping my head around this campaign. So they are IHOP did the whole like rebranding last year.
IHOP.
They became IHOP, lowercase b, for like a week.
How do you say a lowercase b instead of an uppercase b? Is there a different emphasis in the way you pronounce it?
I guess it's a little softer.
Okay.
It's a little
Got
softer,
it.
right? So they did that last year, but this time they're rebranding their burgers as pancakes. You know, it's very metaphysical. So yeah, this is the whole. It's a rebranding this year, and I'm not sure it quite got the same reception that the one did last year. I think maybe they went back to the well a few too many.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
They also made a Bancake list, which is that if you said anything bad about them on social media when they rebranded last year, you went onto the Bancake. See, like ban-cake. It's
And just see what they did there.
Yeah, it's very authoritarian.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, they're the Bancake list. But if you say something nice about them this time, you get lifted from the Bancake list, and you can.
You look thrilled about it, Frank. I must admit, to be talking about this, but yeah. But I guess the serious issue behind it, well, not serious, the way brands market on social media is a big part of PR these days, isn't it? It's a big part of what you do for clients. And maybe they did go back to the well on an idea. I know you don't, you know, just generally though, how do you approach that at Zeno? You've got a load of, you know, great consumer clients. What's the strategy behind this?
You know, I think for all of our clients, but consumer in particular, it's really being part of that pop culture. I mean, look, you're talking about it, and the conversation of the idea of the day, and getting consumers talking, debating, all of that. I mean, social is a big part of what we do. Both, you know, media, as you know, I don't have to tell you, is so broadly defined right now. So social is a big part of what we do as part of integrated campaigns along with earned, but also we have clients where we're not necessarily focused on earned and we're focused more on digital and social and all of that. But, you know, we call it hiving at Zeno, and it's hiving off the cultural heat of the day. How do we take a brand or a company and put them into conversations that may be expected or unexpected? And that's really what gets the juices going of people engaging, whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
And I think a brand has to make a decision as to whether, you know, like in this instance, all positive is one thing, but maybe not so positive, and that might be okay. And that might be part of the brand tone and persona.
When you're doing that sort of work, are you typically dealing with the communications department or the marketing department or the brand managers, or a mixture of all three?
It is a very hot topic, who the buyer is and who the client is. It could be the PR director who has a broad remit. For some of our clients, it's the social media managers. For others, it's somebody in charge of digital, and yet other clients have it integrated. So we have a lot of different buyers, which makes it an opportunity and also, you know, a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Frank, let's end on Cannes, your favourite topic.
I love a good yacht ride, sure.
Well, there are yachts in Cannes, yes. We'll be heading out there a week on Saturday.
Not we.
Well, I will. And Barbie's heading out there, and you'll be covering it from the newsroom.
Yeah, rub it in a little. So, is this the year that, you know, PR firms come home with a wheelbarrow full of
PR lions?
Yeah, PR lions. Is this finally it?
I have no idea.
Yeah, because
we hope every year.
Every year at this time we're in like the Groundhog Day scenario where people are like, we figured out the special sauce for winning lions, you know. So we'll see.
And this is the first year of their new categories, right? Or was that last year?
That was last year.
Okay, yeah.
So, have you been a judge before? Or?
I have not.
No. They've changed the jury a little bit, so they only have 10 juries members physically there.
Yes.
The others are doing their judging digitally, so there's a two-phase process. I mean, I think PR firms have learned how to win lions, but not necessarily in the PR category. It's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, Edelman won the top one of all. Platinum? Titanium, that's it, yeah. And you've won some as well,
yes,
but not necessarily in the PR category.
We did actually win for Netflix in the PR category a couple of years ago.
First of all, talk about that a bit, you know, about why PR doesn't succeed, but then also just tell us why is it important to be there? You know, what is it? But why is everyone obsessed by Cannes, and why is everyone who's not there sort of thinks everyone's there on a jolly?
So I think this will be our 4th or 5th year being at Cannes, and leaving the fun aside, it is work. It is an opportunity to step away from the daily grind and open your minds and go to different kinds of. I mean, you're either going to go to take it seriously or not. We take it very seriously. To hear different presentations, trends. I love the fact that there are people from all over the world there that you wouldn't normally have access to, clients. And when we go, we always have assignments and we bring back content, and clients really like us to come in and say, here are the 5 things we took away from Cannes, and this is the implication for the work we're doing with you today or tomorrow or what have you. So that's the mindset that we go with, and every year we don't bring as many people as the bigger agencies, but we bring a different group of people from the US, the UK, etc.
So it can be sort of motivational for them to get on the trip.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we spend time together, we go to the sessions together, we talk about them. I was saying to someone the other day, what I love is when you're walking down the main drag and people are dressed casually and the sun is shining, but you still hear them talking about business. You hear them talking about the pitch, the deck, and I think that's great. I think it's great to be in a different environment and use that to fuel different kinds of conversations. In terms of entering, we have entered, we're entering again this year. Look, let's give credit where credit is due. The ad agencies have done a great job of understanding what it is to package up a story and to create campaigns that have either earn media at the core or really capture the imagination of society and culture. And we all have to go in and just keep learning and doing better. But at the end of the day, it's a celebration of our craft, our art, great creativity, and how we can all advance.
It is, and you do always come away inspired, tired, but inspired. And yeah, that's a good point on the presentation. I think the jury members of the PRWeek Awards were certainly impressed by the Zeno video for the agency categories, and that's an important part of winning at Cannes as well. So,
Yes.
so yeah, and you know, PR people don't have a monopoly on earned media, right? So, but neither do, you know, PR firms do well in the other categories too. So it's an interesting week for sure.
I mean, I think it's for all of us just going there, whether it's for the awards or the presentations, it's about upping your game.
Yeah.
And I think clients want to know that we are doing that work so that we can come back and be better partners to them.
Yeah, and check out all the great coverage on PRWeek.com. Frank will be leading the team, content team, and I'll be there in situ with Steve Madden, who's the editor-in-chief of MM&M, and looking forward to bringing you back the best insights, as you said, Barbie. Yeah, thank you for being our guest. It's been fun. Great to have you on the show at last, and
Thank
congrats
you.
on
I
the
really appreciate it.
20 years and the continued success and PRWeek Agency of the Year.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Frank, always a pleasure.
Thank you for having me on.
See you next week. And yeah, just before we go, we've got our big conference coming up in October the 16th and 17th. It's called PR Decoded Purpose Principles. So we're really going to dig into the topic of purpose, authentic purpose, and find out what the great case studies are, and how to avoid purpose washing, which seems to be quite prevalent at the moment. And we will also launch a new set of awards in the middle evening of that called the Purpose Awards. So look out for more details on that. And yeah, that's all we've got time for. We'll see you next time on the PR Week.